Tonight, you are wearing clothes, probably without thinking about it. You woke up, got dressed, and walked out into the world covered in fabric. It feels so natural, so obvious that you've never once stopped to ask why. Not why today, but why at all. Why does every single human civilization on Earth, no matter how isolated, no matter how warm the climate, wear some form of clothing? And why do we feel wrong without it? The answer is not what you think. It's not modesty. It's not fashion. And it's definitely not because we were cold. It's because something happened to our bodies about 3 million years ago that made us the most naked, most vulnerable, most exposed creature on the planet. And clothing wasn't a choice. It was the only way to survive what we had done to ourselves. Let's start with the problem. And the problem, again, is you. Look at yourself compared to every other mammal on Earth. A bear has thick fur. A wolf has a dense undercoat. Even a chimpanzee, our closest living relative, has a full coat of hair covering almost every inch of its body. Now look at you. Thin skin, almost no body hair, completely exposed to wind, rain, sun, and cold in a way that no other primate on the planet is. This didn't happen by accident. About 3 million years ago, our ancestors started doing something no other ape had ever done. They left the trees. They came down onto the open African savanna and they started walking, upright on 2 legs, in the full heat of the equatorial sun. And the savanna is trying to kill you. The temperature on the open grassland can hit 120 degrees Fahrenheit. There is no shade. There is no water nearby. And the animals you are competing with, lions, cheetahs, wild dogs, are built for this heat in ways you are not. They hunt in short bursts and then rest. Early humans had a different strategy. They ran. Not fast, but for an incredibly long time. Persistence hunting. You find an animal and you chase it. Not to catch it immediately, you chase it until it overheats and collapses. This strategy required one thing above everything else: the ability to stay cool while running for hours in the blazing sun. And that meant getting rid of the fur. About 1.7 million years ago, Homo erectus, our ancestor, lost most of its body hair. Not slowly, not gradually, over millions of years in a way that barely mattered. It happened fast, evolutionarily speaking, because it had to. Every individual who could cool down faster survived the hunt. Every individual who kept too much hair died of heat exhaustion before they could eat. And along with the hair loss came something else: sweat glands. Millions of them. A human body has between 2 and 4 million sweat glands covering almost every inch of skin. A chimpanzee has almost none. When you run in the heat, you sweat, and that sweat evaporates, and the evaporation pulls heat away from your body. It is one of the most efficient cooling systems that evolution has ever produced. But here's the problem. The same body that was perfectly designed for running in African heat at midday was now completely helpless at night. Without fur, the moment the sun went down, the temperature dropped, and there was nothing between your skin and the cold air. A chimpanzee curled up in a tree at night, and its own fur kept it warm. Your ancestor had no fur. Your ancestor was naked and shivering in the dark. And that is when everything changed. For a long time, scientists assumed clothing came late, maybe 50,000 years ago, maybe when humans reached Europe and hit the cold for the first time. But then researchers did something nobody expected. They studied lice. Human head lice and body lice are 2 different species. They diverged and became separate at the exact moment humans started wearing clothes, because body lice live in fabric, not on skin. By sequencing the DNA of lice and tracking when the 2 species split, scientists could estimate when humans first started wearing clothing regularly. The answer was approximately 170,000 years ago. 170,000 years ago, in Africa, long before humans reached cold climates, long before anyone needed to survive a European winter, humans were already wearing clothes. Not because of the cold, because of something else entirely. Think about what Africa looks like at night. You are sitting in the dark. There is no fire yet, or the fire is small, or the fire has gone out. The temperature has dropped 40 degrees from the afternoon high. You have no fur. You are shivering. Your muscles are burning energy just trying to keep your core temperature above the threshold, where your organs start to shut down. And around you, in the darkness, there are things that can smell you, hear you, and see you far better than you can see them. The first clothing was not a shirt. It was not pants. It was not even a coat in any sense we would recognize today. It was an animal skin draped over a body in the dark. Rough, heavy, smelling of blood and fat and death, but warm. Warm in a way that meant the difference between waking up in the morning and not waking up at all. The oldest known evidence of animal hides being processed for use comes from roughly 780,000 years ago. Archaeologists in Morocco found stone tools specifically shaped for scraping fat and tissue off the inside of animal hides, the exact technique you use when you're turning a raw skin into something you can wear or sleep under. 780,000 years ago, someone sat down with a stone scraper and spent hours cleaning the inside of a hide, not to eat it, but to wear it. That person is the first fashion designer in human history. But here's where it gets complicated. Because clothing didn't just solve the cold problem, it created a completely new set of problems that changed human evolution forever. Fur does more than keep you warm. It protects you from parasites. Fleas, ticks, mites, lice, they all struggle to survive on a body covered in thick hair. The moment humans lost their fur, their skin became an open invitation for every biting insect on the savannah. And when they started wearing animal skins, it got worse. A fresh animal hide is full of parasites, full of bacteria, full of insects and their eggs. Draping a raw skin over your body without processing it properly is not warmth. It is a parasite delivery system pressed directly against your skin for hours. This created enormous evolutionary pressure to figure out how to make hides safe to wear, to scrape them clean, to dry them in the sun, to treat them with fat or smoke or plant extracts that killed the bacteria and repelled the insects. The oldest known needle, a bone needle used for sewing, dates to about 61,000 years ago in South Africa. But the technology for working hides is far older. By the time humans were sewing, they had already been processing animal skins for hundreds of thousands of years. And the more sophisticated the clothing, the more it changed who survived. Here's the part of the story that almost nobody talks about. Clothing didn't just protect the body, it protected the baby. Remember, human infants are born completely helpless. They cannot cling to their mother like a chimpanzee infant. They cannot grip fur. They cannot regulate their own body temperature for weeks after birth. A naked human infant exposed to night temperatures dies. A naked human infant exposed to rain dies. A naked human infant pressed against a mother with no fur to grip dies differently. It cannot hold on. It cannot stay warm through contact alone. But a mother wearing a hide, with the infant wrapped against her body inside that hide, tucked against her chest, sharing her warmth, that infant lives. Clothing was infant survival technology before it was anything else. The sling, the wrap, the carrier, these were not invented by modern parents trying a new parenting trend. They were the technology that kept human infants alive in a world that had no other way to keep them warm and attached to a mother who had lost the fur they were supposed to cling to. Every time you see a mother in the modern world wrap her baby against her body, you are watching a technology that is at minimum 100,000 years old and probably much older. A technology so critical that without it, the human species almost certainly could not have survived. And then, around 45,000 years ago, humans moved north, into Central Asia, into Europe, into landscapes where the winter temperatures dropped so far below zero that no human body, no matter how well fed, could survive the night without serious protection. And this is where clothing stopped being survival and became something else. Archaeologists excavating burial sites from this period find something unexpected. The dead are buried with clothing, not plain functional clothing, decorated clothing, clothing with beads sewn along the edges, clothing with patterns and colors, clothing that took enormous amounts of time and skill to make and that served no additional warmth function whatsoever. A 34,000-year-old burial site in Russia, called Sungir, revealed a man buried with more than 3,000 ivory beads sewn into his clothing, and a child buried with 5,000. Those beads would have taken an estimated 10,000 hours of labor to produce. 10,000 hours. Just for the decoration on the clothing of a dead person. That is not survival. That is something completely different. That is identity. That is status. That is the human need to communicate who you are through what you wear. A need so deep and so ancient that it was already fully formed 34,000 years ago. So here is where we have arrived. You put on clothes this morning and you didn't think about it. But the reason you did, the deep biological reason, the reason baked into your nervous system over millions of years, is this. Your ancestors got rid of their fur to run faster in the heat, and then they were cold and naked and exposed, and then they draped animal skins over their bodies to survive the night. And then they wrapped their infants inside those skins to keep them alive. And then they moved into the cold and built clothing sophisticated enough to survive winters that should have killed them. And then, somewhere in all of that, they started decorating the clothing, started using it to show who they were, started caring not just about warmth, but about what the clothing said about them to everyone around them. The oldest human industry is not farming. It is not metalworking. It is not even tool making in the conventional sense. It is clothing. The modification of materials to cover and protect the human body. And it is so old, so deeply embedded in what we are, that you feel genuinely uncomfortable without it. Not just cold, but wrong. Exposed. Vulnerable in a way that goes beyond temperature. That discomfort is 3 million years old. It is the memory of what it felt like to be a naked ape on an open savanna in the dark, with no fur, no fire, and everything that hunted in the night wide awake and hungry. You got dressed this morning because your ancestors survived that night. And they survived that night because they found something to cover themselves with.